can shape policy, transform systems,
One. 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 One.
invites young African scholars to reimagine the continent's future through science, technology, and inclusive development. As Africa navigates climate vulnerability, inequality, unemployment, and rapid digital change, AYGS 2026 calls for bold, evidence-based ideas and youth-led innovation that can shape policy, transform systems, and deliver real impact. Hosted by the HSRC in partnership with leading research and policy institutions,
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Maybe it's like push more. Test 1 2.
Sure, sure.
Okay, it's gonna quiet down. So I think it's because the gain. I think because the gain was too high, then we just took it a bit down.
All right. Testing 1 2. Good morning. Morning once again. Those who can, am I audible? Morning. The CEO of the HSRC is here. Can I just ask us all to take our seats? Please note that we are cognizant of the delay. We will be working to make sure that we catch up with the program, and we'll ask you to indulge us with your patience. I'll introduce myself formally once the dignitaries are here. May I ask once again that we keep our mobile phones on silent. I think it's, if you have to take it, it's an emergency. Please let us move out of the room. Let's just try and double check, as I'm doing, that my phone absolutely this morning, and then somebody else will take over later on. Thank you. Thank you.
A very good morning, dear colleagues, partners, friends, academics, to the University of Mpumalanga, to the Mpumalanga province. We are very, very pleased to host, in collaboration with the Human Sciences Research Council, the second iteration of the conference here on campus. It is indeed the 20th conference, and we have much to celebrate. My name is Aldous Strubel. I'm the Deputy Vice Chancellor responsible for research, innovation, and internationalization. And we are really very pleased to see all of you in what is as yet the biggest conference yet of AYGS. And thank you indeed for the partnership with the HSRC and numerous other partners who are in the room, including the National Research Foundation, PASGR, Future Earth, and numerous others. Colleagues, thank you very much. I am co-hosting this morning with the eminent Dr. Vuyo Mjimba, Chief Research Specialist at the HSRC. And this opening session, colleagues, will set the scene for a very intensive 2 days of conferencing, but certainly establishing the basis of excellence of what young scholars and graduates are. It is a very clear and fundamental focus of this university. We are 13 years old. Please call us a young institution, not a new institution. We are young in age, but we are more and more established in terms of our excellence, our vision, the innovation, our research environment, and certainly a fundamental academic project that we are very pleased to share with you by virtue of you being on this campus. I acknowledge, and they will be introduced formally, the hosts of this conference, and that is Professor Tenjiwe Myiwa, the Vice Chancellor of UMP, and we are very, very pleased to welcome back Professor Sarah Muswetsa, the CEO of the HSRC. You will be aware that the university and the HSRC concluded a seminal agreement just 2 weeks ago that includes a number of strategic aspects for our joint investment going forward. But one of those is the formalization in the co-hosting with our esteemed partners for the future of this conference. And colleagues, it's a huge advantage for the university. I think it's a huge advantage for the HSRC to partner with UMP, but that really sets the scene and the basis for us to go forward. I must acknowledge also in the audience the very well-known Professor Chek Achu, who I remember vividly at the end of 2024 when Dr. Naledi Ntite and I visited the HSRC main office in Pretoria, and the discussions was initiated not only for the agreement check, but also, of course, for how we have concluded that. And I want to thank also from the outset Dr. Naledi Ntite, Director of Research Management at the university, for the extraordinary drive of this initiative, and of course the eminent Professor Charles Songoro, who's really a strong partner and intellectual lead. Allow me, please, as I conclude, to welcome in the audience from a UMP perspective 2 new senior colleagues that shows the commitment in growth, but also shows the commitment in our academic and partnership excellence as we go forward. And that is very newly joined Professor Kedibone Pahu, the Dean of our Faculty of Economics, Development and Business Sciences, and the really esteemed Mr. Thabo Dekgale, the inaugural Director of International Partnerships and Networks at the university. Colleagues, it shows our investment, it shows our growth, and it certainly shows our commitment to go forward. Young scholars, you have an opportunity to make the most of this engagement. You have an opportunity to really be part of the longevity of what it means to invest in the academic project, not only through this partnership of UMP and the HSRC, but very, very much in partnership with our strong partners and leaders who are co-hosting this. Thank you indeed, colleagues, and it's my pleasure to ask Dr. Mjimba to facilitate this morning's program. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. Let me ride on the protocol set by the DVC, Prof. Aldo Strobel. But in writing that protocol, I would like to observe and thank our CEO, Professor Sarah Muswetsa, for gracing us here, taking time off her busy schedule. Thank you for the leadership. Thank you for the support. It's actually heartwarming to see her here supporting this. It's been a very interesting journey to get here. May I also acknowledge the presence of our Professor Tenjiwe Meiwa, the UMP VC and Principal, who is here. I think if you see two people, heavyweights coming in to grace us on this occasion, it shows the importance of the occasion. More important is that this is the 20th. 20 years committed to the development of Africa's young graduates, funding it fully. I think, I'm not sure about you. If anybody committed to something that I was doing for 20 years, I'll be pleased, and the applause, not prompted, are welcome. Second thing that I would like to say to you, because I note the program, I note the time, our distinguished guests here are very busy people. We will make a few adjustments to the program. We will not have the part where we are doing the national anthem. We will play the national anthem and the African anthem that most of us must know as African youth. But I will be making announcements as we go along. But the most important thing, let me just announce this because it's good for health and safety. We have got exits at the sides of this building in the unlikely case of a fire alarm or an emergency. We have got ablution facilities at the back. We have got them downstairs and upstairs. Please make use of them. And once again, may I ask that we keep our mobile devices silent. I'm asking that, I'm appealing once again. Yeah. Without further ado, and noting the time that is here, I would like to ask Professor Meiwa, the UMP Vice Chancellor, to come and give us her welcome remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor, for your, and I must thank the co-program director, Prof. Aldo, for this. Wow, it's good to be in a room where there's so many young people. Makes me feel younger. And I must acknowledge those that are online. We are hybrid, by the way. And we're recording this to be on the World Wide Web for centuries to come. So we're making history. And I'm happy that this conference happens in my birthday month. So it's actually a gift to me. Appreciate that. Distinguished partners in the HSRC, SciS, NRF, PASGR, esteemed colleagues, scholars, you all scholars, I want to take off Vio and Aldo that graduates. These are scholars in the making. You remember we all started there. This is where we draw our scholars. And I want, our new dean is here. I didn't realize, I couldn't recognize him. He looks like one of the young people. See, we have fresh blood. So colleagues, let me just say Sanbonani, Lochani, Kusile, because Africa has English as the fourth language, Mana, that's Portuguese, Bonjour, Jambo. You're welcome to UMP. It's a joy for me this morning to honor and open this 20th African Young Scholars program, conference, that we are partnering with the Human Sciences Council. We have the Madam Boss over there. A collaboration that has been referred to, as you know, we strengthened this collaboration just 2 weeks ago through signing, and it was celebrated by even the minister himself. So we have endorsement from the higher office. Today, as I look around this room, I'm thinking, We got it. Africa's bride. And those that are online, we got it through you. Thank you for joining us. And I want to say, as we celebrate these 2 decades, this conference doesn't only mark the 20 years of us existing and nurturing young African researchers and looking to you to become eminent researchers, but we're shaping scholarship, development conversations across our continent, and looking at the theme very much, Prof. Aldo speaks to the theme of the university within the research, but also as the university in terms of the strategy. Within the research space, our co-host for this, it speaks of the work that we as Africans must do, the work that we must demonstrate inclusivity, we must demonstrate transformation, we must demonstrate equitable ways of doing things, and that let's have all of that being led by our own people. I like how African leaders recently are really taking the bull through its own horns. I'm not quite sure if you follow the African politics. Have you? Are you following what they're actually doing? I like what Zambia has recently done, Zimbabwe. Even I didn't actually expect Monganga to do that. Kudos to him, at least the sample that I'm celebrating him for. Having said that, let me acknowledge formally now our closer partners. The HSRC CEO, Professor Ramswesa, who was my previous boss. Yes, Madame, remember? Although she didn't raise on any of my salaries, she was a very stubborn boss. I must acknowledge if you look at what we have on the program, all the partners that have supported us through this. I've shortened my welcome because we're running out of time. Your support, partners, strengthens our existence as a university, strengthens our existence as Africa, strengthens our existence as the University of Mpumalanga, the province, as well as SADC, more importantly. I think we're the only province that's connected to more countries than any other. We should be the epitome and the center of South Africa. We're the only province that's connected to more provinces within this country, more countries than any other province. Therefore, we want to say thank you for recognizing us by being here, but also we want to see you as young scholars being active in making the next 2 decades, the next 2 days, to be days wherein we grapple with a lot of things. See, when you give English to a Zulu-speaking person, they just bastardize English. Where we grapple with a number of items that concern us as Africans, stemming from digitalization, innovation, climate changes that we're experiencing, sustainability, looking into the future. Young as you are, I know you are very young, but you need to be thinking of what contribution you want to make for Africa in the 100 years. And you have got to be helping us to think about that now because of your experiences that you're going through right now. We want economic growth, we want change, we want to trade better than we have, and we must actually thank those that have tried to alienate us. Africa is trading better than we have traded amongst each other relative to the past. Therefore, part of what I've said at UMP is that this is a year in which we're raising the bar, a year in which we're saying, let's just pull and go together to ensure that we get to the destination that we want to have. And I want to therefore say that I would like to take from Charlotte Maxeke, my mentor, although she never got to know this, never got to meet. You as young people, you don't have to have your mentor that you know, that you actually see eyeball to eyeball. You pick on people to mentor you, from possibly how you dress to how you put on your makeup. I need to try to get that on and possibly start using makeup. How you dress, how you write, and those mentors do not need to know. You're always told that whether you're 9 years, 19, 29, or 90 years old, you need to have a mentor. Otherwise, you may as well just live under a stone and don't know what's happening around. So she says, her open quote, this work that we're doing is not just yourselves work. It's not just myself work. If we were to do that, that will kill the spirit even of the self. Therefore, we do not live above our people. Don't live above your people, but live with your people, a close quote. So with this, in every research that you do, in every action that you embark on, you need to be thinking of how does what I do touch other people's lives? How do I make a change? It may be first the changing yourself for you to be able to change others, but also expand opportunities for other people in very, very little corners that you're working on. Some of these may mean just picking up a paper that you didn't drop yourself, put it in the rubbish bin. That's a contribution that you make to a cleaner Africa, cleaner environment. As I close, Madam CEO, I see that you're looking at me with those eyes. You're staying too long on the stage. It's her 10 now. I hope these 2 days shall make us aspire to have new ideas, get inspired, to have a new Africa, just like the African Union says, that we need to see an Africa that's different. Africa where there are no guns, Africa where there's less poverty, Africa there is more equity, Africa where we trade more than amongst ourselves. I'm happy that our leaders are really getting it this time around, and a renewed purpose that Africa can do it, a different Africa, a different future for Africa. Africa needs you, Africa needs me, Africa needs us, Sambeni, as we all got together in ensuring that Africa, through the AYGS, a program, becomes what we want it to be. And therefore, I want to say, as I end, I'm declaring this conference open officially and saying in my language, Ngiyabonga, Siyabonga. Let it be a good one.
Asambeni madoda, bobaba la umama. Let's go forward. I think it's a call for us to go together. Not to do it for me, but to do it for us. Very inspiring. Thank you very much, Prof. Meyiwa. It is my honor to call upon the Chief Executive Officer of the Human Sciences Research Council to give us her remarks, Professor Sarah Muswetsa.
Let me just first declare that the reason we were a few minutes late is not because the Vice Chancellor of this university was late. In actual fact, she was an hour early. Vice Chancellor, thank you very much for opening our conference and for honoring an MOU that we signed less than 2 weeks ago, I think. Young scholars in this room, this is what MOUs are in 2026, especially when they are signed. I will declare this. Young, beautiful women who are leading universities, who are leading institutions. So I'm taking, indeed, as they say, I'm borrowing from the beauty on this side and the brains on this side, and I'm taking it with me. VC, I want to acknowledge a few people, but I was just noting a few things, so let me start there. To our newly minted dean, I must say I thought you were also one of the young scholars in the room. As I walked in, I was sitting there, I was thinking, oh, one of the young scholars. He is the dean, but I think it also speaks testament to this university of seeing young minds as an asset to where we need to be going as a country, as a continent, indeed as this university. Congratulations, Madam Vice Chancellor. To, of course, our Vice Chancellor, to our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Strubel. Let me say this, that you, as young scholars this morning, you are sitting at a university that in this year, last year, this year, acknowledging that its publication record has grown in leaps and bounds, and thanks to our Deputy Vice Chancellor who's sitting here. Scholarship is important, and your leadership is equally recognized. I'm saying all of this because it is no coincidence that we are standing here at this university. It's a leading university that prides itself with scholarship, with young minds. And I promise you, we did not plant the dean. I promise you, we did not ensure that its publication records are very high and are growing for us to have this conference. It is the tenacity of the leadership in this university. To Dr. Matlo from the South African Young Academy of Sciences, thank you very much for partnering with us. To our dear friend for many years, Dr. Pauline Ngimwa from PASGR, Partnership for African Social and Governance Research. To our partner from NRF, Mr. Ngumalo, thank you very much for supporting us. To all the distinguished guests and scholars, and of course, if I miss this, she's not going to be happy with us. Dr. Naledi Ntite, thank you very much for all the hard work behind the scenes. We chose March, not because it's our Vice Chancellor's birthday month, but that too we planned. So, for us, VC, thank you very much for honoring us here, and happy birthday in advance. We welcome all of you to this 20th Africa Young Graduates and Scholars Conference. I'll try to be brief in appreciating and in respect of our VC's time and all of us. So pardon me if I try to be succinct in what I need to say. This is indeed us as HSRC reaching a significant milestone, not only for the HSRC, not only for our University of Mpumalanga, but for the broader intellectual community committed to nurturing Africa's next generation of thinkers, innovators, and leaders. I think my colleagues at the HSRC are saying, oh, you're very calm and very smooth. I think the previous speakers were very, so I'll try to emulate. I might just miss it at points as my squeaky voice rises, but I'm trying very hard. Hosting this milestone conference here at the University of Mpumalanga, for us and for me, it makes it even much more meaningful. For those of you who don't know, that's the vision of this university. It's a vision that embraces sustainable development and innovation, echoing again the theme of this 20th conference. Mpumalanga, the place of rising sun, is a fitting location for us again for the conference dedicated to all of you who are a rising generation of African thinkers, scholars, intellectuals. To all of you who've traveled across our beautiful continent, our very warm continent, a warm welcome, and I'm hoping that you are going to have fruitful discussions. For 2 decades, the AYGS conference, and sometimes I even put an A there. I don't know why I put an A there. Czech and Charles and colleagues, has served as a vibrant intellectual platform where emerging scholars from across the continent come together. It is a space where curiosity, and we want to continue with that, curiosity meets rigor, not pontification, where new knowledge begins to take shape. In the past 19 conferences, we have covered themes such as governance and democracy, and I remember being in the middle of Nairobi and making sure that this conference proceeds. inclusive growth, climate resilience, technological transformation, and the future of African economies. These are some of the themes that we've covered over the years. Today's theme, driving sustainable development, innovation through technological transformation. I know that it is timely given the many developments in artificial intelligence, in digital platforms, in biotechnology, renewable energy systems, and new data infrastructures that are transforming how economies function and how societies organize themselves. I know that many of you in your various presentations, and I've read some of your abstracts, we are talking about a moment of polycrisis. And somehow when we define this moment of polycrisis, we often want to not talk about, yes, we talk about inequalities, yes, we talk about technological disruptions, but we don't often talk about the adverse effects, such as wars. And I'm sure Aldo knows this. If I start on that and go to Iran, I won't finish, so let me contain myself. If I start talking about Gaza and the women there and the children and the kids there dying every day and the young school kids who have just been murdered inside Iran, let me not go there. But those are the adverse effects of technology. Let me offer 3 reflections for this conference. First, in what I've just said, innovation must be socially embedded. In whatever that you're going to be talking about, know that for us as a continent, and certainly what we are driving at the HSRC, is that across Africa, we must indeed see and encourage powerful examples of social innovations that we've already are seeing and experiencing emerging from communities, not Silicon Valleys of this world. That these are social innovations coming from grassroots movements. These innovations address everyday challenges that plague us as a continent, from food security to urbanization to education to public health, let alone, I want to also talk about the movement of money, right, from one space to another. I also want to acknowledge that with innovation that is socially embedded, community health workers, there are indeed models there that provide healthcare remotely, but again address the social issues, the health issues that we are dealing with as a continent. That technology should not just be an iPhone. And notice that our Vice Chancellor was carrying a gadget, and I'm carrying paper. I will get on with the program, as they say. For innovation to contribute meaningfully to our Africa's future, it must be socially embedded, meaning it must be responsive to local realities and grounded in community knowledge. Secondly, I want to talk about social development that requires knowledge that is in pursuit of justice. Historically, global knowledge production has always been deeply unequal. Research funding, intellectual property regimes, and technological infrastructure remain concentrated in the global north. As my Russian counterparts will say, maybe not necessarily the global north, but in the global north that is not politically conscious. For we have friends in the global north that see the plight of all of us. This imbalance affects whose knowledge counts, whose voices are heard, and whose solutions are prioritized. For Africa to realize its development aspirations as articulated in the Agenda 2063, we, all of us, we, Asambe, we must build research systems that promote knowledge, sovereignty, and epistemic justice. This means strengthening African universities, research councils. It means investing in young scholars, in emerging scholars. It means creating equitable global partnerships where African researchers lead knowledge production rather than simply supplying data. I want to read that again. It means investing in young scholars. It means creating equitable global partnerships where African researchers, you and I, we lead knowledge production rather than simply supplying data to the North to theorize about us. It also means recognizing the value of indigenous knowledge systems and community knowledge. Sustainable development cannot be achieved if innovation excludes the very communities it seeks to serve. My third and last comment and reflection for all of us here is that all of us as young scholars, and sometimes I'm a young scholar in a particular field, so I'll include myself as a young scholar. Yes, yes, yes. No, we don't do this anymore. We do this, right? I saw our presidents were clocking, much to the annoyance of someone else who was clocking other things, such as missiles. Young scholars are central to Africa's. Don't worry, Aldo. I know that this is live, and so I will protect the university. Young scholars are central to Africa's innovation future. That is why you are here. AYGS is built on a very simple but very powerful idea that you as young scholars, we are indeed paying it forward. You are not future leaders, the current leaders. For this conference will come out great ideas and scholarship. You are asking difficult questions and must ask difficult questions. You are challenging established paradigms and you must challenge them. You are reimagining what development can look like in an African context, and we want you to boldly do that in this conference. We know, as young scholars, you also face significant structural barriers. Limited research funding, precarious academic employment, unequal access to global research networks. We know that, and this is why this conference is about fully funded, indeed, Dr. Mjimba, fully funded. But this conference is also about building those research networks, that the global doesn't mean North. When we say global, we also mean the African continent research networks that we want you to build here. Our VC has said this: mentorship matters. It matters. Research funding matters. Institutional support also matters. At the HSRC, we view this AYGS conference as part of a broader commitment to building this next generation, your next generation, our next generation of African scholars. I said I was going to shorten, but I got carried away. So let me conclude. Few remarks again. For long, as you know, Africa has always been studied as an object. Sometimes, those of you who are anthropologists, I apologize. I know that many scholars, Chimafeje, Aminamim, and many others have often spoken about how we need to be confident about our African scholarship. That ours is not to replicate and regurgitate all theories. our African scholars, have often asked us to ask difficult questions. How do we build inclusive economies? How do we build end societies where women and men are equal? How do we govern technological change that responds to the current realities of our people, us as the people? How do we ensure that climate transitions are just? How do we strengthen democratic institutions? Again, I'm not going to talk about what we are currently engrossed with. So for our Kenyan friends and family, the next 2 days, I want you to ask a South African and just say, Madlanga Commission. The next 2 days, we want you to present research with confidence, engage your peers with openness, learn from senior scholars and practitioners that are in our midst. We also want you to build networks that sustain your careers long after this conference ends. Today, in this room, I am very confident that the vision of AYGS, the vision of the University of Mpumalanga, the vision of the HSRC is alive and thriving. I know that present in this room are great minds of the African soil. You are thinkers, you are innovators, you are the architects of the Africa that is yet to be realized 2063. As HSRC, we have a publishing house. We talk about voices of liberation, and in that publishing at the press, as part of that collection of voices of liberation, we've published the works of Albert Luthuli, Wangari Maathai, Thomas Sankara, Loretta Ngcobo, Miriam Tladi, Fatima Meer. These are the scholars that I want to call in this room to inspire you the next 2 days in this conference. But it would not be proper for me to just talk about books and I don't touch them, and I don't also pay tribute to the beautiful libraries actually that have been built in this campus. So from HSRC VC to one of your libraries, we would like to donate about 50 books to the library. And of course, I couldn't carry all of the books, right? So as a symbol, funny enough, the top book is by none other than Achima Feje. I didn't plant this. I didn't plant this. It's by Achima Feje, by none other than Bongani Nyoka. Story about us, for us, in our continent. Yeah. I want to wish you well in this conference. I'm seeing familiar faces from UNISA. VC, I don't know what you did, but I'm seeing familiar faces from UNISA. I'm seeing familiar faces from Kenya. I'm seeing very familiar faces from many parts of our continent. May this conference be a resounding success as I hand over the books to our VC. Oh, your identity, okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you to our Chief Executive Officer for what I usually call privately, not thought-provoking, but imagination-stretching speech. It's actually tells us that we should think further than we're thinking. And you can see the speeches there joining by saying, don't do it for, they are linking by saying, don't do it for me, do it for us. Thank you once again. Another round of applause. Thank you. Given that our esteemed guests are very busy, the VC needs to be in another engagement. What we'll need to do with that now, we'll alter the program. I would like to ask us to go for the photos. First of all, let's start by presenting gifts to our esteemed colleagues. I'll ask Ms. Moni to come forward, and our CEO. Yes. More gifts. CEO? CEO, may I also ask you to come?
All right, okay.
Come to the stage, please. Yes, I was going to correct you. I'll also ask the DVC provider to come to the front as well. Yes.
Firstly, to our VC, and I know that the gifts will be declared. Again, I didn't plan this. It's a happy birthday. To our ever working hard, and I'm envious. Next time the VC is not in this university, I think this next person knows where they need to be working next. I'm looking forward to that moment. To the ever working hard, our DVC would not be here if it wasn't for him. And thank you very much for all the hard work.
May I ask you to remain here, please?
This person I almost forgot, I'm sure you know in my speech, and that's our Naledi. Again, for those of you who are not from South Africa, please ask the person sitting next to you, what does Naledi mean? And you will know that, again, the name follows the person. Naledi, thank you.
I just want a photo session. Prof. Charles Kongot, please come and join us.
Thank you.
From here, I would like us to move orderly. Adzi, we are just altering. Direct us where we go. I will ask us that we go get a group photo session, and then we come back here for an address by Prof. Achu. We are going outside on my left, mine, so which means it's the opposite, your right. We are going outside, there's a banner there. We may proceed there promptly. welcome once again. As I did say, we altered the program slightly so that we accommodate our CEO and the Deputy Vice Chancellor. Our next speaker is going to set the scene for us. If you want to understand what the AYGS is all about, and you want to do something else around such a program, I think it is in your interest to listen to the next speaker. May I call to the stage Professor Chek Achu from the HSRC to come and give us his talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director, the CEO of the HSRC, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Mpumalanga, the DVC, Prof. Aldo, Dr. Tite, distinguished colleagues. I'm honored to have been asked to set the scene for this year's conference. Last night, as we were driving to Mpumalanga, a colleague inquired what setting a scene at the conference entails and why it is important. My immediate reaction was that a scene setter emphasizes the importance of a conference, asks preliminary questions that the conference, and more particularly, encourages conference participants to ask brave questions instead of safe comments. And we expect, as the CEO of the HSRC mentioned earlier, that the resource persons that are here will be able to provide us with the various contextual and methodological approaches on how brave questions should be answered. And also provide, why not, answers to those brave questions. So my take this morning is that with the challenges that we are facing as a continent, we should not shy from asking brave questions instead of, hiding behind safe comments. The convening of the first AYGS conference, that's about 2 decades ago, was actually a momentous occasion. Momentous in the fact that it marked the baptism of me, particularly as a researcher. That is when my journey as a researcher started, this conference. It was pioneering, in fact, in the fact that during that particular period, the challenges that the continent was facing, South Africa in particular, the issues of the continent emerging from the challenges, the negative impacts of structural adjustment program, the issues of poverty, pervasive poverty on the continent, inequalities. That particular period marked a significant turning point in the way in which we analyze, the challenges that we do have on the continent. And as I indicated, it was pioneering in that the challenges South Africa and the continent faced were daunting and required reflection to develop contextual, policy-oriented solutions to these challenges. And as I mentioned, at that time, the continent was just emerging from the negative impact of the structural adjustment processes. And the preoccupation at that time, and I think it's still very relevant today, was the form of the state that can actually address those challenges that the continent and South Africa was facing. And at that time we know about the political instability, especially in the Sahel region, the western part of the continent, the issue of droughts in the Sahel, in the eastern part of the continent. So there were these acute challenges that were very peculiar to Africa at the time. And operating within the Africa reawakening paradigm and guided by the concept of negritude, several policy positions were contemplated, especially here in South Africa, where President Thabo Mbeki had actually established these networks of conversations, especially within what they call the Native Club and the African Renaissance platform at the time. The key issue at this time was that there were no actually appropriate solutions that were proposed. But the idea of an African developmental state or an African welfare state dominated political debate within those platforms that were created. More importantly, colleagues who were participating in those platforms agreed that a post-apartheid or a post-colonial state should be able to provide security for its citizens. It must be a welfare state, meaning resources of the countries must be equally distributed, and that it must ensure clean, potable water, quality education, and quality health care for all. But the key question we should ask ourselves, especially brave questions as I mentioned earlier, was that there was actually no workable concept that was proposed at the time. But the idea that an African developmental state or an Africa welfare state, should be able to be contemplated by the countries on the African continent. More importantly, colleagues within these discussion platforms agreed that a post-colonial state should provide security to its citizens or for its citizens. It must be a welfare state. But the key issue is, and I want to ask us in this particular conference is, have we been able to provide security to the citizens of the continent? Have we been able to ensure that the continent provides essential services to its people? The AYGS platform provides also that kind of space in which we should be able to interrogate these questions. The AYGS space provides us with those spaces where we should be able to ask those brave questions, not hide behind safe comments. The AYGS provides us with that platform to use our data that we've mined through many years of research through our PhDs journey and to propose fundamental policy direction that our continent needs to take. 2 decades ago, young colleagues, young researchers like us sitting here, in the HSRC, started this particular conversation by asking these brave questions. The process was guided by the African Renaissance paradigm, as I mentioned earlier, and secondly, by the need to bridge the gap between young South African graduates and young people on the African continent. And again, it was also aimed to create that kind of conducive platform through which young people should engage, on critical issues affecting the continent. 20 years later, my colleagues have mentioned, we ask ourselves these brave questions. Have all these objectives been met? Have we conducted proper monitoring and evaluation, processes or structures to ensure that the goals that were set out at the beginning of this particular conference, have been achieved. I strongly believe that there is room for improvement. But our preoccupation right now at this stage, as our CEO mentioned, what is our return on investment in all the sponsorship, all the financial resources, human resources that we've put into this particular project? What is it that we can actually show that this particular conference has achieved, or this particular platform has achieved? I say, why young people, young graduates in South Africa have actually effectively joined the Africa debate, there is still, room, for us to be able to systematically, deliberate on the approach in which we need to address the challenges that we are facing on the continent, especially within the decolonization debate that, rocked the continent, and South Africa in particular, about a decade ago. One thing that this conference has actually done, and which I think we need to leverage on, is the fact that we have actually created that network of young people on the continent who will be able to debate this particular conversation in a deeper way, by way of asking those brave questions, as I mentioned earlier, instead of hiding behind safe comments. But one important thing that perhaps maybe I should share with you young colleagues is to draw your attention to the kind of contradictions in the message that is coming from Africa and about Africa, especially in terms of policy discourse. A key aspect of this particular debate is the need to bridge the policy gap between Anglophone Africa and Francophone Africa. As the CEO mentioned earlier, the eminent scholars such as Achima Feje, we can't run away from the work of Achima Feje when it comes to issues of the African discourse. Ali Mazrui, they have argued, that it is important that we prioritize African knowledge generation processes and to embrace our history and culture and with pride. On the other hand, we have the likes of Cheikh Anta Diop that emphasize the importance of Eurocentric discourses in positioning Africa within the global knowledge conversation. We need to take these divergent views on the place of African agency in shaping global policy direction seriously, particularly because the tiers-mondist, which is very common in Francophone Africa, or the globalist, or the cosmopolitanist, that are housed at the University of Paris in the school called the La Sorbonne School of Thought, could easily direct conversations in Francophone Africa. And because there are many Francophone countries, on the continent, they could bring their numbers to bear in shaping AU policy direction. So it is important that we get into those spaces and to see how we can direct those conversations, so that whatever positions that they are taking should not influence the policy direction of the African Union. So I urge you to get into those debate spaces while asking those brave questions, as I mentioned earlier, not hiding behind safe comments. Recently, the French President Emmanuel Macron, invited Professor Shibembe from the Vet School of Social and Economic Science Research to moderate a series of conversations and roundtables in France, leading up to this year's France-Africa Summit. Those who understand the intrigues and nuances surrounding France-Africa Summit, and more specifically, France-Francophone Africa relations, will bear with me that this summit set the tone for France's policy direction with Francophone African countries. While this will have passed as a normal gathering of scholars, of Francophone African scholars, I would suggest we follow these conversations with keen interest. With very keen interest, the debates that Achimbembe is going to lead in Paris. Particularly because, these particular debates have the tendency of influencing France-Africa policy. And based on Professor Chimbembe's philosophical leaning, we should perhaps look forward to a deeper recalibration of his concept of the post-colony, interspersed with his assimilationist, concept, that his colleagues within the Tiers-mondiste or the La Sorbonne school of thought usually will embrace. To illustrate the flawed perception of Africa, in the global policy conversation, I will quote President Nicolas Sarkozy, the former president of France, on a visit to Senegal in 2007 when he said, and I quote, "The tragedy of Africa is that the African has never really entered into history. They have never really launched themselves into the future. The African peasant, who for thousands of years has lived according to seasons, whose life ideal was to be in nature or in harmony with nature, only knew the internal renewal of time. In this imaginary world where everything starts over and over again, there is room neither for human endeavor nor for the idea of progress. The problem of Africa is to be found here. Africa's challenge is to enter, to a greater extent, into history. It is to realize that the golden that it is, that's Africa, is to realize that the golden age that Africa is forever recalling will not return because it has never existed. Similarly, in 2017, at the University of Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso, President Emmanuel Macron had this to say. In countries, that is in Africa, where women still have 7 to 8 children, you can decide to spend billions of euros, but you will still stabilize nothing there. However, in 2009, in his opening remarks in the Ghanaian Parliament in 2009, President Barack Obama counteracted these perceptions when he said, "The 21st century will be shaped by what happens not just in Rome or Moscow or Washington, D.C., but by what happens in Africa as well, in Accra." My call to you today is to challenge this misogynistic characterization of the African female gender on the global stage. I beg you to challenge these assumptions. Ask those brave questions as you embark on your journey, on your research journey. Not hide behind safe comments. And the burden to challenge this negative perception of the continent, or to affirm what President Barack Obama said about Africa in Accra, rests with you. The HSRC has provided the AYGS platform to you, where critical debate about the place of the continent in global policy debate should be anchored. Make use of it. The CEO mentioned about the HSRC press. We are open to receive, manuscript proposals from you to challenge this perception about the continent. The key is not whether we have to contemplate what President Nicolas Sarkozy said in 2007, that Africa is dreaming of, an Africa that is that will challenge the global power dynamics. But that dream has never existed in the first place. But the onus is on you, to challenge what President Nicolas Sarkozy said, and that we should seize the moment, as President Barack Obama said in 2009, and make meaningful changes in our society. As I conclude, the conference theme is driving sustainable development through technological innovation. And I think the fundamental issue here is for us to allow you, young colleagues from across the continent, to rethink the future of Africa in a post-pandemic perspective, identifying current technological, transformative initiatives on the continent, and present your ongoing empirical research that can move the continent forward in this global knowledge economy. The key is to assess critical, knowledge, and also to explore new knowledge on how Africa can thrive in a post-pandemic world. I think the AYGS platform provides you with that opportunity. So go ahead, seize the moment, and make meaningful change in your society, in the African society. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Prof. Chekachu. Like I did say to you, if you want to know the history of where the AYGS started, where it intends to go, there is no deeper well than him amongst all the people that are in the HSRC. And this marks the end of our first session. I looked at people say we have not lost too much time. I think we have lost about 10 minutes or so. My plea to you, colleagues, is that as we go for tea, let us take exactly 15 minutes. Why am I asking for those 15 minutes? We want to be fair to the first speaker and to be fair to the last speaker. We are Africa's young graduates going towards a certain direction. We are just not going to move without thinking about time. We are going to be guided by time because time matters to us. We have no time not to be underdeveloped anymore. So the first part of managing our time starts with us, we the young graduates and the aging scholars. So 15 minutes, tea is on my left. Mingle, don't try and talk to a person that you have not spoken to. I've tried already, so that it's about building a network, like it was said. Asambe and Madoda. Those who don't understand, it says, but yes, it says, let's go, not let me go, all of us. Thank you. Thank you. This is the end of the session. Thank you.
Sure. Testing. 1, 2.
Twitter or Facebook, please remember hashtag AYGS 2026 or Africa Rising, hashtag Africa Rising, hashtag Innovation for Development. Please scan the QR code from one of the posters so that you'll be able to get the hashtags and link to HSRC and other organizations. Thank you. My duty here today is to moderate the next session on entrepreneurship. I just need to log in quickly, sorry. So my duty here is to moderate the next session on entrepreneurship as a tool for STEM-led transformation. I'm from SciAS, as an executive member of SciAS, and I'm currently working as a senior scientist at the Makato of Sciences University. SciAS, just a background, aims to be the voices of young scientists across South Africa. Our vision is to position young scientists at the forefront of shaping scientific dialogue and policy in South Africa and globally, ensuring that their contribution advance societal progress and sustainable development. We have brilliant young scientists across South Africa who works within SciAS voluntarily, so through passion and through commitment to advance in science and impact inside the society. We do this by dividing ourselves into 3 working groups. Working Group 1 of Scientific Excellence and Academic Development, Working Group 2, Strategic Partnership and Policy Influence, and Working Group 3, Science, Communication and Awareness. Today's activity was from the brainchild of one of the speakers, Dr. Sean Perry. He was the one who put together the proposal for the workshop. We did another workshop last year with at CSIR on youth Indaba session. So basically, he put together a proposal and then sent it to me as an exco, and then I had to forward it and find some money around our ASAF colleagues. So in our speakers for today, on this session, we have 3 speakers, Prof. Tebogo Mashifana, Dr. Sean Perry, and Dr. Mapula Razwinani. Prof. Tebogo Mashifana, as she ascends the stage, I will read a little bit about her. She's a leading chemical engineer and an NRF-rated researcher whose work focuses on circular economy, solutions, and sustainable engineering. She works with local partners on transforming industrial waste and wastewater into valuable products, addressing environmental challenges while creating economic opportunities. Beyond her research, Prof. Mashifani is deeply committed to mentorship, youth empowerment, and encouraging more young people, especially women, to pursue careers in STEM. Prof. Mashifana, thank you for gracing us with your presence. Always a pleasure. Thanks so much. Next speaker is Dr. Sean Perry, who is basically the man behind this workshop of today. Dr. Sean Perry is an engineer by profession who has a doctorate in engineering, turned entrepreneur, founder, and CEO of Sean Perry. So he named the company after himself. A 100% Black-owned company specializes in developing and manufacturing premium organic beauty and skincare products using indigenous plants extract. Sean has also patented a technology in the treatment of contaminated water and has won numerous awards for his invention and entrepreneurship spirit. Dr. Sean, thank you for your availability. Thanks so much. Our last speaker, Dr. Mapula Razwinani, an award-winning biomedical scientist and a researcher working at the Nelson Mandela University. She has successfully patented and marketed a natural anti-inflammatory gel product, demonstrating a strong drive for translating scientific knowledge into products. Dr. Razwinani serves as an executive member of Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World South Africa National Chapter, where she advocates for advancements, mentorship, and leadership in women in science. And lastly, she did say, I must say this quite so that you hear it. I'll give you a few seconds to listen. Silence, please. She is a mother of 2. Colleagues, we're going to have our speakers giving 10 to 20 minutes talk with a PowerPoint presentation. And after that, those few slides and talks, we will then have a Q&A session. So my duty will then, I will come back later during the Q&A session to take questions from the audience. For now, we can call to stage Prof. Tebego Mashifana. Thanks.
Good morning, colleagues. Are they going to project my slides? Oh, from there. I'm not going to sit here. Oh, great. Morning again. It is truly an honor to be here this morning, and we really hope that in the next 2 days, you're going to be engaging and have those impactful conversations. And I always say that we need to leave spaces differently, transformed, and I hope that this conference is going to be there for us. So the topic that I was given for my presentation is okay.
It's not moving.
If you can go